All right. So as I mentioned, today's lesson being the intelligence and power of the heart. I do want to say that I chose this background, not being disconnected from the wildfire, wanting to just be conscious and aware and remembering the life force that is living through all of nature, that the healing force is also with us as this fire moves through for whatever purpose and reason, for a greater knowing that we may know, but revealing a greater life, revealing a greater knowing. And as we talk about the intelligence and power of the heart today, allowing for the essence of spirit and knowing this greater truth, opening to a greater knowing, a greater calling to all of us to love Mother Earth, to not take for granted Mother Earth and the breath, the air, the circulation of spirit that continues to move, and for us to remember that and allow for that expression and allow that consciousness to remind us of the love and the essence of the giving that Mother Earth continues to give through all of us, to all of us. So as we talk about the intelligence of the heart, typically when we speak as human intelligence, we tend to have our mind focused on human intelligence in the brain. And science continues to learn more about the brain and how it works. And there is a lot of information that continuously flows, understanding more about the nervous system, how the amygdala fires off, and all the different components, the frontal cortex, and how all the different parts are functioning. So science continues to learn about the brain and continues to share more, and for all of us to understand better how to move ourselves and to become conscious and aware and powerfully choose our thoughts. And when we talk about the brain, we usually talk about the mind, and the mind being, yes, the brain is the physical component, but our mind is the subconscious mind. In other words, the habits or things that subconsciously we have been told or that we do by habit, as well as the conscious mind, meaning the thinking mechanism. And in meditation, becoming aware of that which is aware of the thinker. So the mind is a larger concept where the brain is actually the physical aspect of the functioning of the mind. Well, our book this quarter is The Heart Math Solution, as Vicki mentioned in our meditation today. And the Heart Math Solution is focused on the heart, the physical heart, as in the power that it has pushing the blood to circulate throughout our system. And also, if anybody has seen the graphs of an EKG, the rhythms of the heart we are able to track. And again, paying attention to the aspects of the heart, much like the brain, that there are some physical wonders that we continue to learn about the heart. And we also use the word heart when we also talk about the emotional heart. So sometimes that becomes a little confusing, but the emotional heart of when we're talking about expressing love or when we're frustrated or angry or upset, we talk about the emotional heart. And this book is targeting in perfect alignment with our annual theme of revealing our wholeness and realizing that our heart, both the physical heart and the emotional heart, are core to our well-being. Our heart is essential to our wholeness. The emotional heart is essential to our physical expression. And the book starts to describe what we're learning over the last couple decades regarding the heart And I'm going to talk a little bit more about more of those discoveries. But the Heart Math Institute has been doing this research, again, for over a couple decades, understanding the electrical energy produced by the heart. Now, I know that many of you have seen pictures that, like the one I'm going to show you here. And we know that the heart gives off an electromagnetic force that looks something like this, as scientists have traced that power with sensitive devices. And we are learning that that electromagnetic force, whether we know it or not, is actually, connecting and is influencing one another. Our thoughts and our emotions are affecting our magnetic force and connecting with those that are in our environment, whether or not we're conscious of it. And of course, many of us have probably walked into a room where we felt like it was very thick in the room, a very thick feeling, so thick you could cut through it. And you know what it's like to be around somebody who's joyful, happy, passionate, maybe giggling, a child's giggle. And the electromagnetic force is being felt, even though we haven't learned a whole lot about it, perhaps in school, or become so conscious and aware as we are learning about the heart now. And the power of this heart energy is important in managing our mind and our emotions. And the book, The Heart Math Solution, is giving us tools for putting that heart energy to work in our lives for our health and our well-being and for a greater quality of life. I forget what book it was that actually gave me a new perspective that really our mind and body together are a biochemistry lab. A biochemistry lab. What do I mean by that? Well, when we imagine things that we're fearful of, and we start focusing on that fear, and we cause this anxiety to flare, we are actually causing the biochemistry in our bodies to change. We get our heart rate up and the adrenaline starts to flow. And scientists can measure that. But it's all based on what we can imagine. As we imagine fear, false evidence appearing real, we can actually change this biochemistry of a body. And when we express love, and when we're with our family or our friends and expressing our love for one another, again, we're changing the biochemistry in our body. The endorphins are running wild. And that expression and that feeling is such a good feeling. And again, those endorphins are running throughout our system. And based on what we imagine and what we focus on, we change that biochemistry. So the power of our thoughts set off the chemistry in our body. Now, what about the heart? I have used the metaphor many times, and I continue to use it, that the heart is the gas pedal, and the brain or the mind really is the steering wheel. So both are needed and important for a healthy and balanced life in order to get to a particular destination. If we're all heart and emotionally a mess, and the gas pedal is going off, but there is no centering of that emotion, we know that things can get crazy. Again, whether we're talking anger, whether we're talking frustration, suppressed feelings, depression. If all of the heart is moving without any of the mind, it's like a car without a steering wheel. And yet at the same time, if we're overthinking and overjudging and constantly blaming and looking who's the purpose and who's the reason for all of this, and we get into our heads without really being centered in our heart, well, then we're all steering wheel. And again, it requires the heart and the mind, the heart, the gas pedal, and the steering wheel for us to become balanced and to move forward for a greater demonstration in whatever it is happening in our life. Now, we all know in today's environment, it can be challenging to maintain our emotional equilibrium. Each day, whether it's the wildfires, the pandemic, the political scene, and lots of other causes, our emotional reactions can take us over, can wear us out and wear us down. So it's important to have tools. It's important to be connected to the inner being within us, to bring ourselves back into the peace and the presence, much like we've done here today in our healing meditation and the guided meditation offered by Vicki Lopes today. Of course, we have, for those of us who practice the science of mind philosophy, we have tools and we have our faith. And our faith provides hope. It provides heart. And, you know, that in general, people know that it feels better to love and to be grateful than to be resentful and or depressed and or angry. So how do we use the research and the philosophy that leverages the intelligence and power of our heart and apply it to our lives? Now, we know that every ancient tradition spiritually talks about love, as India Ari spoke. We all believe in this oneness and this love. How do we implement that? And how do we become conscious of that intelligence and that power and leverage that for the greater good of our own lives and those who come in contact with us? So the heart math solution describes in science, in fairly simple language, the progress we've made in 2 decades to understand how the heart and the heart math solution supplies some tools to help us leverage, again, this power in our lives, and has evidence, and this is the important part, because the heart is core to our well-being, emotionally and physically, meaning our physical health, our emotional health, our mental health. So what are some things that the book learns? And I'm not done reading the book yet, but the book has shared in, again, easy to read language, that the heart has its own nervous system. The heart has its own nervous system. There is really a brain in the heart. A brain in the heart. Yes, it's true the physical heart pumps blood. Yes, it's true that we can measure the heartbeat and the rhythm of our heart. But even moving beyond that and going back to the electromagnetic field, our heart sends us, if we are tuned in, emotional and intuitive signals to the brain. And the heart does that faster than the thought. Our heart sends signals to the brain through the nervous system faster than we can form our thoughts about what we're feeling. So the heart knows before the brain. And again, it's interesting to read the book and how they share what they're learning about that. And of course, the heart may send signals to the brain, but have all of this been taught about tuning into our heart and how to listen to the message of the heart with the mind to create what I'm going to use as wisdom? Because connecting to the heart intelligence, again, based on the book and the experiences and experiments that people have been through. Those that have used the tools have felt that it has made a difference in their decision making, in being grounded, in having better health, a better expression of health in their physical body, that it has been good for their productivity in their life, and they're opening up to more learning abilities and essentially improving the quality of life. Now, really, this is just another perspective on the science of mind motto or quote from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. In the textbook chapter, What It Does, love points the way. Love points the way, and law makes the way possible. Dr. Ernest Holmes also says, love is the spontaneous element in the universe, and the whole universe is based on love. So, if love is the power and the intelligence, how do we leverage that in the world to soothe some of the chaos that we may be perceiving? We have to personalize the power and intelligence of our heart. In other words, if we constantly stay focused on the outer world and allow the chaos of the outer world, we become attached to all of that without bringing ourselves the wisdom and the intelligence and the power of the expression of the intelligence in us to our experience in the world. And people will feel that. On page 13 of Heart Math, it says Heart Math is about cultivating our intelligence. We've concluded that our intelligence and intuition are heightened when we learn to listen more deeply to our own heart. It's through learning how to decipher the messages we receive from our heart that we gain the keen perception in our mind needed to effectively manage our emotions in the midst of life's situations and challenges, in the midst of life's situations and challenges. So, an important skill for all of us to learn, to support each other, to connect with one another in practicing these skills. In Science of Mind, we know we do affirmative prayer by using the 5 steps of our affirmative prayer. We recognize and call to mind the one source, the infinite love, the infinite intelligence, and we unify with that. And now, when we unify with that, we talk about doing that by understanding in our mind that we are one with this higher power. And in being one expression of this one life, that I am one with it. And now, can I spend some time in my heart really deeply connecting that knowing and then listening to the heart and allowing the heart to speak back to me so that I can declare more of the truth and realize more of, one, who I truly am, and two, what is it that spirit, that power, that presence is calling me to do? And then to state in our words how it is we recognize lining up with that oneness, that intelligence, and giving thanks and allowing spirit to manifest that through us by aligning our head with our heart. So Heart Math talks about, they've got a few tools, but one particular tool is called the freeze frame. It also has 5 steps. And it suggests that when, for instance, you're at work and you get triggered by a particular coworker, what can we do to not let the gas pedal take off without the steering wheel? And the first step is what he calls freeze and recognize the stress feeling, as in become aware. The second is to shift our focus to our heart and to breathe through our heart to help focus the energy, because when we get frustrated or upset, our heart moves into a chaotic rhythm. Again, the scientists can show this. And then they ask us to recall a positive and fun, loving feeling sometime in our life when we felt very loved, and to bring ourselves, our heart, back into alignment, re-experiencing that feeling again, so that we're aligning our head and our heart. And then asking our heart, what would be a more efficient way to respond and to minimize stress, to connect, to approach the situation again with wisdom, and then to listen to the heart, letting love lead the way. So, real life example, I was talking to somebody who had mentioned that they were in a stressful family situation, and the family dynamics were causing a lot of worry for this mom and her daughter's family. And they were carrying that worry. It was on their mind, it was on their heart. And of course, that's not a good feeling when you're worrying about your loved ones. But they happened to meander into a situation where suddenly they had an opportunity to hold a 5-month-old who was not comfortable and feeling well and expressing that uncomfortability, and who really needed some cuddling. And so this woman was able to take this 5-month-old child, bring it close to her chest, and to basically soothe the baby. And in that soothing, holding the baby over her heart, she all of a sudden discovered that heart connection that not just soothed the baby, but soothed her just as much, if not more, than the child itself. And the adult spoke to about how that particular circumstance melted away the worry of the family situation. Love was the salve. Now, some of this I know feels very intuitive. We've always known in our beingness that our heart has power. And do we draw attention to our heart and allow that power, and now even visually thinking about how that power emanates from us through our electromagnetic field, and how it does make a difference about how we show up in the world, how we show up in the world, what we bring to what may appear to be chaos. The heart's electromagnetic field, according to scientists, is by far the most powerful field produced by the body that can be measured many feet beyond the end of our body. In other words, we bring our consciousness with us wherever we go. Now, again, the scientists continue to bring together graphs, and you can look at the book about how the freeze frame has changed those that were in an unhealthy or an emotional situation, and how by doing the freeze frame and measuring the heart rate variability, the pulse, the respiration, where things were out of sync and erratic, and that was causing a lot of body stress. The body could not sync with itself. The body was incoherent, and therefore stressing the body, and of course not allowing the mind to become clear and centered. And so hence, for us doing science of mind prayer treatment by inner blending, and which is what I'm practicing now, some of this freeze frame technique with the heart, we are able to bring the heart and mind together into coherence. And therefore, to bring sort of like a laser focus rather than energy all over the place, we're able to align and to allow a space where the heart and the mind can come together in clarity, in a focus, a laser focus. And people are definitely demonstrating how they feel emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, in a much better frame of mind based on using some of these tools. We know as we look about and read in the news, a lot of impulse control is what we may see not happening in parts of our society. And so impulse control is a measure of our emotional intelligence. So how can we come together as a community and instead of reacting to what we see on the news, how can we leverage the process and what we know to avoid being drained and depleted by bringing ourselves and practicing bringing ourselves into coherence between the mind and body. Now, I'm not done with the book. The book has other practices, a heart lock-in practice, where they ask you to spend 10 to 15 minutes with a dose of quality time with your heart. So there are many aspects of wholeness. Again, our theme being revealing our wholeness. This is what the whole year has been focused on. And I hope you'll take advantage of reading the book and understanding how, from now this medical perspective, we are bringing together wholeness, spirit, soul, body, mind. How do we bring ourselves into greater alignment? Because this is what we're being called to do based on what we're seeing in the world. Awaken, wake up, and realize that we are being called to be able to bring ourselves into coherence, to know the power of our heart, and to bring that out into the world. And the book, closer to the end, is focusing more on prayer, meditation, and spirituality, so that we can all come together. Again, in the book, it just as India Ari said, it matters not the religion. It's the faith of the heart. It's understanding humankind. It's working together in knowing our oneness and then expressing the universal love, peace, power, and joy, demonstrating through our emanation of our heart energy. How can we continue to strengthen that communication between our hearts and our minds with one another so that we may become a powerful, not just become, so that we are the powerful community that we are, inspiring, empowering, and transforming ourselves and others to know a greater truth to be demonstrated in our world. I'd like to end this lesson with a very powerful letter from Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, of course, we all know, was one of the greatest scientists of all time. He wrote 1,400 letters that were released to his daughter. His daughter's name is Liesel, and she donated them to the Hebrew University. And one of the letters is what I'm going to read to you. And the title of this letter to his daughter was "The Universal Force of Love." When I proposed the theory of relativity, very few understood me. And what I will reveal now to transmit to mankind will also collide with the misunderstanding and prejudice in the world. I ask you to guard the letters as long as necessary, years and decades, until society is advanced enough to accept what I will explain below. There is an extremely powerful force that so far science has not found a formal explanation to. It is a force that includes and governs all others and is even behind any phenomena operating in the universe and has not yet been identified by us. This universal force is love. When scientists look for a unified theory of the universe, they forgot the most powerful unseen force. Love is light that enlightens those who give and receive it. Love is gravity because it makes people feel attracted to others. Love is power because it multiplies the best we have and allows humanity not to be extinguished in their blind selfishness. Love unfolds and reveals. For love, we live and die. Love is God, and God is love. This force explains everything and gives meaning to life. This is the variable that we have ignored for too long. Maybe because we are afraid of love, because it is the only energy in the universe that man has not learned to drive at will. To give visibility to love, I made a substitution in my most famous equation. If instead of E equals mc squared, we accept that the energy to heal the world can be obtained through love multiplied by the speed of light squared, we arrive at the conclusion that love is the most powerful force there is because it has no limits. After the failure of humanity in the use and control of other forces of the universe that we have turned against us, it is urgent that we nourish ourselves with another kind of energy. If we want our species to survive, if we are to find meaning in life, if we want to save the world and every sentient being that inhabits it, love is the one and only answer. Perhaps we are not yet ready to make a bomb of love, a device powerful enough to entirely destroy the hate, selfishness, and greed that devast the planet. However, each individual carries within them a small but powerful generator of love whose energy is waiting to be released. When we learn to give and receive this universal energy, dear Liesel, we will have affirmed that love conquers all, is able to transcend everything and anything, because love is the quintessence of life. I deeply regret not having been able to express what is in my heart, which has been quietly beaten for you all my life. Maybe it's too late to apologize, but as time is relative, I need to tell you that I love you, and thanks to you, I have reached the ultimate answer. Albert Einstein. Love is the ultimate power, and love points the way. Namaste.